It's almost hard to believe, but it's been 3 years since I leased this 2016 Kia Soul EV, and it's going back to Kia on July 6th. Bottom lining the Soul is pretty easy. I'm glad that this is the model I chose back in 2016. I still think it was the best EV to choose on the market at the time, and the best EV for me overall. The second thing is that I'm glad that I leased this back in 2016 rather than having actually bought it, because it does mean that I can turn this back in very easily and get something else. Overall EV values for this generation of EVs definitely seem to be a little bit soft, so this is not worth as much, according to my initial research, as the residual for the lease says it should be. So if I'd bought it 3 years ago and was trying to turn it in right now for another EV or something else, I wouldn't get as much out of it as I did in this lease program. The lease was also heavily subsidized. This one was about $419 after taxes per month, and then of course the electricity that it cost to move it around. Overall range in this model, real world range, is about 90 miles. That's the other reason that I am glad that I leased it, because a modern EV would exceed this EV range by at least 150 miles without batting an eye. The Leaf Plus, the Kia Niro, the Hyundai Kona, the Tesla Model 3, very obviously, a Jaguar I-Pace, etc. There's so many other EV options out there that will get you more than 200 miles of range, and that's one of the reasons that I wasn't able to put as many miles on this as I initially thought I would. When I signed on the lease initially, I thought to myself, 10,000 miles a year, that seems awfully restrictive, but in reality, we didn't put 30,000 miles on this, we only put about 20. When it comes to overall design, I have a soft spot for boxy vehicles, so I've always liked the fact that this is pretty boxy. It's sort of mini bread van looking. We have the practicality of this very square profile, even though the window line drops a little bit. That means that you can easily put 4 adults in the Kia Soul. That applies to this model as well as the next generation model that's now sold for 2020. Overall seat comfort is very good in this model, although there are a few things that I'm sad about. I'm sad that Kia never put power seats in this generation of the EV. That's something that I would have liked. I do like the ventilated seats and the heated seats. Powered seats would have been a nice option. You also couldn't get the upgraded audio system in this generation of Soul EV. But it's hard to go wrong with the overall interior practicality and the cargo capacity of the Soul. This is a big box, and you could put large items on the inside as long as you just need to carry 1 or 2 people around. At this point, I should remind you again that the Soul EV is a company car for me. So in addition to running Alex and Autos, we also own a materials engineering company. The two businesses are jammed together into the same corporation, and we share employees around. So at the moment, we have 7 employees total that are driving vehicles, doing pickups and deliveries, assisting us with camera work, editing work, etc. Whatever needs to be done around the office is done by this random collection of people. But the important thing to know is that this vehicle was not driven primarily by me. In fact, I probably drove it the least of anybody because I'm driving other cars to review on a weekly basis. But every time I got behind the wheel of the Soul, I kept thinking to myself, this was definitely the right decision, and I am a little bit sad to see it go. Replacing the Soul EV is this all-new Hyundai Nexo, the first hydrogen fuel cell crossover in America. This has a range that is much longer than the Soul, about 380 miles if you drive it gently, 350 miles if you go by the EPA estimate in this particular trim. Now, hydrogen has some limitations of its own. Obviously, the hydrogen network exists only in California and Hawaii at the moment. So if you want to drive this to Arizona, that's going to be a problem. If you want to drive it to Nevada, that's going to be a problem. But when I really thought about that, my last few cars have never left California. So for me, that's not a problem. In fact, I've been married 18 years, and when both of us sat down and thought about it, none of the cars that we've ever owned together have ever left California. I have to go back to a 2000 Chrysler LHS, and it left California on 1 nationwide road trip once, never left California again. Remember, if you're living on the East Coast and you're questioning the sanity of that, California is a pretty big place. If I wanted to go on a road trip to Sacramento, that's 3 hours away from where I am now. If I wanted to go to Los Angeles, that's 4.5 to 5 hours depending on traffic. San Diego, probably 8 hours depending on exactly how you go and how much traffic you'll encounter. So there is an awful lot of California to explore within the range of a hydrogen station, and to be perfectly honest, half the time I go to Los Angeles, I fly because it's just not worth it. And if I need to go to San Diego, I definitely fly because that's not worth it either. But more importantly, this fuel cell vehicle happened to work for me and my particular situation. It may not be applicable to a lot of folks out there. This lease is $450 a month plus tax, so that gets us up to nearly $500 or so a month, but all the fuel is included, and there's also a $5,000 state rebate as well. So bottom line, this Nexo ends up being less expensive to operate than the Soul EV for some reason. Also odd is our insurance company gave us a better insurance rate on this than they would have on a Soul EV, a Kona EV, a Leaf Plus, or definitely a Tesla Model 3. The monthly rate on this one is about $60 a month less than the Model 3, and that's per month. Of course, times 12 would give you the yearly rate. So this was significantly less expensive for some strange reason than any of the other battery electric vehicles around, even though this is significantly more expensive to purchase if you were to buy one than any of those other battery electric vehicles. This is about twice the price of a Model 3 in its base form. This is about $68,000. Model 3 gets down there to about $35,000. With that out of the way, let's get back to the Soul. Let's talk about things that I liked and didn't like. I really liked the charging port location on this EV. I've driven all the EVs out there. I've tried all of them in various situations. And personally, I like it when the charge port is in the front rather than on the side, especially if it's on the side in the rear. Up front is my choice. That's where it's located on this particular vehicle. Dislikes are the fact that I wish this had a spare tire. We have a spare tire well in the back, and it's occupied by the one blower fan that could have been located somewhere else, so we don't have that spare back there. I also wish that we had just a teeny bit more room on the inside, and again, some of those luxury features that you could get in the non-plug-in version of the Soul, the regular gasoline version, that you could not get in the EV, like powered seats, etc. A lot of this has been solved for the 2020 model, but for some reason the 2020 EV loses the panoramic moonroof, which is one of the features that everybody has loved about this car, whether it's me or any of the people that have been driving this over its lifetime. Most folks seem to really love a huge glass window in the roof. Now on the downside, the glass window in the roof does mean that the Soul EV is a little bit more prone to squeaks and rattles as it's gotten older. This particular one doesn't rattle, although I have heard of some other models out there that do. Some folks out there on our Facebook page have written in, said that their Soul EVs have started to rattle around the 3-year mark. This one doesn't rattle, but it does squeak a little bit around the window if you're going in off-camber situations. Remember, this is an enormous box, and it has huge holes all the way around. It has holes for the doors, it has these huge holes in the roof for the glass, and then it has that big square hatch in the back. Structural rigidity in a vehicle that is this shape is very, very difficult. So this shape of vehicle, although very practical, is going to be a bit more prone to that sort of thing than something like a sedan. Now let's talk about what's gone wrong during our 36 months and 20,000 miles with the Soul EV. This is going to be pretty boring because the answer is basically nothing. Other than picking this car up at the dealer and then returning it in a few days' time, this car has never seen the Kia dealer ever again. It's had one software update that gave us Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. That support was not baked into the 2016 model when we got it, but it was offered as a free upgrade. We then had to replace the 12-volt battery last month, interestingly enough, because it reached the end of its lifetime. A lot of folks don't realize it, but most electric vehicles out there still maintain a 12-volt battery for the 12-volt systems in the car. It acts as a ballast, and if the 12-volt battery dies, the vehicle won't run. So overall, unexpected maintenance costs for this particular vehicle, $90 for that battery right there. Other than that, it's just been rotating the tires. We did that ourselves. We got a nail in one. We patched that ourselves, and that's been pretty much it. So 20,000 miles, 3 years, total maintenance cost, one battery, and one patch on a tire. That shouldn't surprise too many folks out there because electric vehicles are generally speaking pretty reliable. There's a lot less to go wrong in a battery electric vehicle, whether we're talking about this or any of the other modern electric vehicles out there, than a gasoline counterpart. Now, on the downside for this generation of electric vehicle, the Soul EV is a little on the slow side. 0 to 60, a little under 10 seconds, so we're talking Prius-like acceleration, and that is very different than the current crop of modern EVs. So there we have it, 3 years in a Soul EV. Hopefully we will be doing some more of these update videos on the Dodge Durango, which is coming in right around a year now. I promise I will make a video on that very, very soon. We'll also be doing hopefully 6-month or 1-year updates on the Hyundai Nexo. That's going to be driven by the same group of people that drove this, and hopefully I'll be able to get more of them on camera so they can share their thoughts about the Nexo, as well as perhaps the Soul, if I can get them to do that. In the meantime, be sure and hit that subscribe button down there if you haven't already done so. That subscribe button is really key to getting us access to the vehicles that we review on a weekly basis here at Alex Autos. So if you haven't done so and you're debating about that, be sure and hit that subscribe button down there. Also find us over at facebook.com/AlexAutos so you can see what we're driving this week.